Yeah, I think we should just start every single episode, though, with being like, obviously, we're celebrating the Rep TV announcement that just came out.
I think it's hilarious that Rep TV was supposed to be the most anticipated album of 2025, period, and it hasn't come, or sorry, of 2024.
It was the most, we did anticipate it all of 2024.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of AP Taylor Swift, the podcast for Swifties who like to dive a layer deeper into the music. So lean in close, turn up your volume, because class is in session. We're your hosts. I'm Monsi.
I'm Jen.
And I'm Jody.
And we are your unofficial professors of Taylor Swift.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of AP Taylor Swift. This week we are deep diving You Are in Love. By the way, happy week of Valentine's Day, everyone. Monzi, can you remind us all the good old details about You Are in Love?
Yes, You Are in Love came out, ready for it, in 2014 on the album 1989, which is not confusing at all. Written by Jack Antonoff and Taylor Swift, and it is track 15, lucky number 15. And yeah, that's all I want to say about that.
As a reminder, listeners, for our deep dives, we'll go through pretty much line by line, trying to understand who's the speaker, who are they speaking to, and then overall, like, what's the purpose of this song? So that's how we're going to do this. So we'll start at the beginning. One Look, Dark Room. That actually sounds really ominous without
Okay,
knowing
yeah,
the rest
so
of the song. Hold on.
not gonna lie, as I was prepping for this song, I did this last week on our song, on our episode about romantic songs, and to me, this song has always been emotional, really capturing the feeling of love, which I talked about last week. But when I started to think about it from a deep dive perspective and really looking at the lyrics, I was like, what the hell is this song about? Which
Okay, wait.
often happens.
So, I learned from the Stars Around My Scars book that this song is written in spondees, which are
Yes.
a foot consisting of two long or stressed syllables. One look,
Ooh.
dark room, meant just for you. And so that is what lends this song its simplicity and just gives you that space in between.
Is
each
there
word.
other examples of things that are written in spondee, perhaps?
Sure. What is an example? Let's see. Spondees in ancient Greek, perhaps? Yeah, there's a lot in ancient Greek. I can't read that.
I went through a Michelin star restaurant called Spondee once
Oh, that's...
in Greece.
Here we go. Shakespeare's Troilus and Cressida. Cry, cry, Troy burns, or else let Helen go.
Ooh, interesting.
The effect of spondees in verse is often to slow the line down and to represent slow movement.
Oh, well, that's really interesting when we get to the third line. One look, dark room, meant just for you. Time moved too fast. You play it back.
Time moved too fast.
Okay, so we're intentionally slowing down from the start through both the lyrics, but also through the way in which this is written, the rhythm of the song.
And there's not really, the song doesn't really rhyme. It's more of like spoken. It's more of conversational than rhyming.
Yeah, I think it creates, so all those four, again, dark room and just for you, time moved too fast, is kind of the like moment you meet eyes across the room.
Yeah.
You know, and everything else freezes around you because you've made that connection.
Very cinematic.
Very cinematic. I think, is it Dress that has that as well a little bit? Or Stolen Moments in a Crowded Room. They got no idea about me and you.
As you were saying that, I thought about in plays, the stage instructions, or even in a script, it kind of reminds me of that in some ways. Very brief, especially the first few lines. One look, dark room, just reads to me like instructions of acting.
It's almost like she was in her director era before she was in her director era, because this is kind of how you would direct the scene.
Yeah.
Someone gives one look in a dark room just for that person. Then you're going to button up your buttons on coat. You know, just it really creates the scene. So what she's doing
Time
is
moved too fast. Play it back.
play it back, play back.
Well,
Sorry.
2 musical references for that. First is West Side Story. That's how Maria and Tony meet, is a look across a room, and everything slows down on the stage around them as they meet in the middle in the spotlight.
Well done.
And then also Rewind from Angelica Schuyler.
Rewind.
Yeah.
I remember that night. I remember that night. Oh my God, this is.
Buttons on a coat. Is that in a musical too?
Well, there are a lot of buttons on Hamilton's coat. Button up your
Stop.
overcoat when the wind is free. Anyway,
I've always guessed that buttons on a coat lighthearted joke, that there was a joke about the buttons on the coat, but we don't
I
know
don't know.
what it is.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't
that's
know
where
what
like
it
some
is.
of this is like inside jokes, like no proof, not much, but I guess that's no proof of love. Like lighthearted joke could be a joke between the two, like buttons on coats, to your point, who knows? Lighthearted joke. No proof, not much, but you saw enough. Who's the you? Did that change? Did the you change? Because we have.
Well, I know in the song we have an I, a you, and a he, because that's why I've spent my whole life trying to put it into words.
But yeah, and that's in the bridge. We don't get an I until the bridge.
Yeah, but so throughout the song, there's those 3. I, reading this now, think this is the moment of meeting.
Yeah.
They meet eyes, and you walk up to them. Someone has something funny. You make a little joke about the buttons on their coat, and you're like, "Oh, haha!" And the play it back is like, "Oh, you're remembering the moment where you met this person, who now, in retrospect, you know what this meant to meet that person."
Got it.
No proof, not much, but you saw enough of like this wasn't like love at first sight, but there was enough to be like, okay, let's go.
And
let's see what happens.
The
next.
you is second person talking directly to the reader. Like this is you, like putting us in the song.
Yeah, one thing that I do think of when I hear meant just for you is the implication that maybe there are others there, but the look was just meant for you. That means no one else saw it. And so we were talking about inside joke, and what I'm kind of reading is they're in a dark room, like a theater, a movie theater. I don't know, like somewhere where there's a lot of people, or at a party, dancing at night, a bar. Yeah, somewhere low lighting, whatever, maybe some social gathering. And you give a look referencing this inside joke, something about buttons. And that look was just meant for one person. Does that kind of
the other
make
person
sense?
made the look at us?
Because there's a you and a he, I've always imagined it like if I'm the writer, I'm writing this song about Monzi when you and your husband met. And I'm like writing the song of like, because then we get the why I've spent my whole life trying to put it into words, that the reason I'm writing this is because I am observing what I think is true love, and I'm trying to capture it.
It's kind of like Elizabeth Bennet watching her sister fall in love with Bingley. Like that's kind of the experience that I get, where we learn about it through Elizabeth's perspective, and that's what this feels like to me.
Yeah, and this is an artist. I mean, it says I put my whole life trying to put. This is an author who is like, this is something. It actually reminds me this is a wild reference because I've seen the show once and it was a great show. But in Mad Men, I think in the very first episode, if you haven't seen Mad Men, I'm not going to get into all the context, but there's a moment where Don Draper is with his mistress basically and takes a picture of her and a guy she's talking to, and he goes, "Oh, you're in love." And they're like, "No, we're not." And he's like, "We pay thousands of dollars to get a picture that looks like this. I know what this look means of like desperately trying to recreate the authenticity of true love is like a constant challenge for all creators and all artists of any kind." And I think that this is someone saying, I've seen it and let me try to figure out how to portray it. And we start with once upon a time, they met each other. You know, like that's what this is.
Yeah. So the you is kind of acting as a third person other rather than, because you can also be self-referential and can say this happened rather than saying this happened to me. You can have an internal monologue and say there was a moment where he looked at you, you know. In this case, we're saying because she uses first person later on in the song, we don't think that's the case here. We think of her more as somebody who is observing from the outside and talking about perhaps two people in love.
But it also does mean we can insert ourselves into there. I have had moments listening to this where it's like, I have experienced that. And it's like she's singing it to me. Yeah, like it does something.
Similar to Dear Reader, perhaps,
yes.
where she's talking to her listeners. Yeah,
totally.
Which she doesn't do too much.
Yeah.
But it's very effective. So, no proof, not much, but you saw enough. Small talk, he drives.
Coffee at
Coffee at midnight.
midnight. I think it's the first date.
I would die if my first date was at midnight. Like that would not be my best foot forward.
I think that the implication to me is so he picks her up, they have some small talk, the date goes so well
They
that
keep
they at
going.
midnight are still going, that they didn't want it to end.
Didn't we talk about in Holy Ground having coffee is how you start your day? Maybe you're starting your day at midnight. Who knows?
Because this is written like a poem, I am tempted to take the words less literally and less even as a narrative and think very specifically about each word. We don't have time to go do this all day. We're going to be here forever. But I think even thinking through the word choice of why would she pick certain words, I feel like in poetry, you go for words that might have multiple meanings. It's a very specific reason why you choose a particular word. And so when I think about no proof, not much, I'm trying to think of like proof as evidence. Of course, she's talking about what she saw, and then she talks about saw enough. There's something about not much and enough of like, how much proof do you need to see something? Why would she pick those words? And then it goes into small talk. He drives, and drives could be literal, like driving a car, but drives could also be he's taking control or driving the relationship forward or just taking charge right away. And I'm trying to just tie it together because until that point, all we have is buttons on a coat, lighthearted joke, there's a smile, but then what is she looking at and why is it
I think these are just
no
the thing, right? If you're reflecting back, right, you play it back. These are the flashes of what maybe you remember. And some of those are mundane, right? Small talk, he drives, we had coffee at midnight, the light reflects, the chain on your neck. Like these are these small things that are so deeply seated in your memory from this meeting, this moment, this date, this experience, and how powerful that is. And I think the simplicity, that's where I like the meter and how that simplicity, that forced meter really helps drive home the the extraordinary in the ordinary.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you. I think there is a decisive decision to try to make it mundane and everyday things. At the same time, the less words you have, the more thought is put into
Yes,
each
for
of those
sure.
words. So something like he drives to me,
Could mean multiple things. Yeah.
yeah, it feels like it has this connotation that establishes of he's taking charge maybe and he's
Right.
leading the way. Also, coffee at midnight, as you were saying it, I was like, you're not supposed to drink coffee at midnight unless you're trying to stay up even later. It's like we're
Exactly, and I think that's where I really agree with what you're
keep
saying,
it
Monty,
going.
that, like,
Yeah.
that's a very specific it could have been diner at midnight, it could have been dinner
Right.
at midnight, which would have a very
Exactly.
different connotation.
But the word coffee communicates much more.
Coffee, that, like, "Oh, shit, we're doing something now that we typically would not."
Wouldn't do. So it's unique. It's something that stands out, but also it's like we don't want this night to end. It's
Yeah.
midnight, but we want to keep it
Yeah.
going. This is not Cinderella party ends at midnight. This is we're getting coffee at midnight so we can keep going.
Well, and I think too, to the he drives point, we get this later in the song as well, so I might be biased by knowing that, but it's also painting a picture of the he as a gentleman.
Mm,
He's driving, he's taking initiative, he's not that Peter Pan syndrome. He's doing something here.
mm.
And in this, we had these two things of we met, and I think you're right, Jody. Like, if I think back to the first time I met Chris, I don't remember most of it because I didn't know what it was going to become.
Right.
And so this is in retrospective, like, yeah, I remember like we met and we made a joke, and it's like, and I think the proof, my theory now is like the proof that you're actually in love or that this is something real. And it's like we don't really have any proof, but there's enough of something for me to be like, yeah, let's go on a date. And the date is it's a normal first date. It's small talk, but he drives. He's showing initiative. You have coffee at midnight. You want to keep going. Those are all really good signs.
Our shoulders brushed.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, as you were saying this, I think I figured out why I was so fixated on the proof part because she starts by saying no proof, like none, right? You're on one hand, you're saying no proof, but then she corrects it and says not much. You're acknowledging that there's maybe a little proof, a little bit of hint, and then the next line is, but you saw enough.
Right.
So actually, it's almost like an amendment of the line and saying there was no proof, and then you're like, actually there was a little bit, and then you're like, actually that little was enough.
Was enough.
It's a growth. It's showing some growth.
What is, and to the question that I have that I truly have no answer for, and because again, you're right, so specific. The light reflects the chain on your neck. What is the light? What is the light that this
In
chain
the
is
diner.
reflecting?
I just see this as they're in where you could have coffee at midnight. To me, it's in a
Your
diner.
apartment?
No, a diner.
Oh, I very much interpret it as the like, oh, do you want to come up for a cup of coffee at the end of a date? To like keep as like just a way to keep it going.
That's not
To
what
keep
you
hanging
asked.
out.
Nobody asks you up for coffee at the end of a date. Jen, it's been too long since you've been on a date.
Maybe they don't drink. People don't drink. It's a
That's
thing.
fair.
The way that close readings for poetry is just like a complete, it feels like overkill, and trying not to get too deep into that, but that's why it's like these are the fun choices that she has made that are
Yeah.
really moving the song. We talk about how much feeling that is carried in these really simple words, and this is some of the science. This is the fact that light, it's so funny, like you're like, this is a light from the diner. I always thought of street lamps. You think of romantic, like kissing in the rain, street light kind of things. But it is interesting when it says the light reflects, it could be a continuation saying the light reflects the chain on your neck, but there's also a line break there. In a song, it's kind of hard to tell, but there's a pause, of course. You could also say the light reflects, and then unrelated, the chain on your neck. Light is a loaded term. There's good and bad. There's light and dark. There's so much to that word light. And you could just talk about something flashing a reflection, but you can also just, I don't know. I mean, what is a chain? I'm thinking of like maybe a religious chain, maybe like a cross, or maybe some sort of chain of a heart or somebody you love. Like a chain has to be something significant.
Yeah. And
Unless
then
it's 2 chains, in which case, I don't know.
But then it goes on. He says, "Look up, and your shoulders brush." So
Yeah.
now I'm not saying this is what it is. My immediate thought is fireworks. That something to look up at.
Ooh, I love that.
And your shoulders
Starlight.
brush. Yeah. That there's some, because you're looking up at
Moonlight.
something. So some sort of like, yes, which is all very romantic.
Which is also funny because I also thought of look up as just looking up at the face. Like maybe you're looking at the chain and then he's like, look up and your shoulders brush. But yeah, I think the fact that it's ambiguous, but no matter which interpretation you have, it's all romantic is.
It's a moment. Whatever it is
awesome.
a like moment that's happening. Yeah. Which is what she gets into, yeah.
And then we go back to no proof, one touch.
One touch.
But you felt enough. So the first time was no proof, not much, but you saw enough. Now it's no proof, one touch, but you felt enough. Maybe because their shoulders brushed.
Yeah, so far we have, they met and they were like, okay, there's a little spark, you know, let's see. Then they had a first date that was like, oh, maybe there's fireworks literally or metaphorically. So there's definitely enough. Let's see where this keeps going. And then we go to the chorus.
The repetition of no proof. Again, repetition means emphasis. To me, it's starting to sound like it's lack of evidence, right? And this song is about hearing it in the silence or seeing it with the lights out. The idea that there doesn't need to be evidence for love, or love doesn't leave a trace, is like where my head is going right now, because she keeps saying no proof, and yet there's these little things that happen, and what we're trying to quantify is a thing that is maybe inquantifiable. We're trying to pinpoint something that's hard to pinpoint, and so maybe that's why she keeps saying no proof, is because there's no evidence.
We might get evidence later, though. We'll see.
Well, then we get to the chorus. You can hear it in the silence. Silence. I mean, do I have to do the repetition? I mean, the repetition's important. Silence, silence. You can feel it on the way home. Way home. Way home. You can see it with the lights out. Lights out. You're in love. True love. You're in love.
Well, I think this might be kind of to the proof point that I was saying of like, is it tangible? Is it something you can touch? No, but you hear it in the silence. You feel it on the way home.
There.
You see it in the dark. That's the evidence, but that it's still intangible.
But yeah, at the same time, there's nothing to hear in the silence.
Right.
That by definition, I think the thread is there's no proof. There's nothing in the silence. The nothing is the thing that you're feeling.
But that's what's frightening about love. There is no proof. You're just kind of taking it at experience and at someone's word.
I think I'm starting. It's like there doesn't need to be proof, because this is a thing that does not leave evidence.
Well, and I think that does get to the vulnerability point is like pretty quickly what we get into in the next stanza. So, morning, well, it starts out nice. Morning, his place. So, I do think morning, his place, key, you're not living together. It's still his place, but you woke up there. Burnt toast, Sunday. So, just normal domestic life. You keep his shirt. He keeps his word.
Ooh, that's important.
I love that line.
I know.
Is that a fair trade?
But also at this point, what could his word be about? It's such a mundane kind of thing. It's not like you have sworn for goodness or health for wedding. We're not talking about that. We're talking about even little promises. Like maybe there was a small promise.
But we don't know how much time has progressed. We know this is different because the whole song started at a dark room. Now we have morning in his place. We don't know if this is the next day. We don't know if it's the next month. It's to Jen's point, there's still like his place, my place, but some sort of time has progressed enough to feel something. And I don't know that it really matters how much time has progressed. It's the idea that you feel it. You feel it in the silence. You hear it in the silence. You feel it on the way home. You see it with like you're already starting to feel that you're in love.
And we get meta super fast after this line. And I think this goes to the he keeps his word. And for once you let go of your fears and your ghosts. So is it necessarily a fair trade? I don't know. But I think that this moment is very specifically that the you had some baggage. And the fact that he is keeping his word is leading to some healing and some trust that was maybe not easy for the you in this song.
Yeah, you're right. We do go from kind of ordinary joke, small talk, coffee to he keeps his word for once you let go of your fears and your ghosts. Like, holy shit. And then it says one step, not much. But like,
but it said enough.
That's a lot more than one step.
Well, I think this is going to what we even said last week, that those mundane little things build up. Like if you think about it, it's so much better to be in a relationship where your partner's keeping their word day after day and says, I'm going to get groceries. And 2 hours later, they got groceries, versus kind of a mediocre relationship that has one grand romantic gesture. Right. It's like, that's not what we're doing here. It's these tiny things that are leading to letting go of fear and ghosts and being willing to be vulnerable.
It's the whole thing, like, how does someone treat the waiter or waitress on a date, right? Like how that is very telling of who someone is and what they're really like, and that's much more telling than some grand romantic gesture, right? You want to see the ordinary of how they go about their day-to-day life. There's a thing where apparently a good first date is to like go and do your errands with someone, like go to the grocery store, because you want to bring somebody into your life that you already have, as opposed to like going out for drinks or to a party or whatever that like is very different from your day-to-day life. Like bring someone into your day-to-day life is the whole idea.
I think that's so true. And the one step, not much, but it said enough to that point of it's those small things that someone's coming into your life. They're doing those things. And then we get kind of like just that you kiss on sidewalks, you fight and you talk, and that's a relationship. Normal. Like great, there we go. Highs and lows, and pretty normal.
Very different from that's the way I love you, screaming, fighting, kissing in the rain, right? Like you fight, you fight, then you talk.
Yeah, that's true. That is really key to have those together, that it's not screaming, fighting, kissing in the rain. It's you kiss on sidewalks, which is great. That's super normal.
Which is from like Sparks Fly.
Yeah.
I also thought the thing that said enough isn't it. It's this idea that leaving the fears and ghosts behind, that's the step that said something. So there's a bunch of mundane things at the beginning of the stanza, which are great. The fact that he keeps his word is the thing that always stood out to me when I heard this song as a really important line. But I think even that is not necessarily important. It's not the fact that he kept his word that is the step. It's actually the fact that he kept his word is the thing that lets her go of the fears and ghosts, and that is the step. So it's almost like a self thing rather than an external thing. It's not something he did. It's something that I was able to do, and that told me something about how this is different.
And then we get into the section that I don't think it's like the 100% foolproof proof but I do think it is like, we had no proof, and this is a moment where we get a little bit of proof that maybe this is love. One night he wakes, strange look on his face, pauses, then says, "You're my best friend," and you knew what it was. He is in love.
I love this line because, yeah, it could be proof, but I also think that it's this realization that he hasn't recognized that it's love yet. Like, you have the speaker who knows what it is, but I always got the sense that he may not know what it is.
Men.
I was just thinking, because the song still mirrors. So in the first section, we have no proof, not much, but you saw enough. And in the second, we have one step, not much, but it said enough. And then we have no proof, one touch, but you felt enough. And you knew what it was. He is in love. Like, if we do those mirroring.
I also think, like, this song is you are in love. So it's about your feelings and your emotions.
Yeah.
And this is the
here
first
we're
time we learn.
saying he is in love.
Yeah. And again, like, and it's saying you knew he's in love. But this is a song isn't about him being in love. It's about you being
I think
in love.
it's like the one night he wakes, strange look on his face.
Strange look is an interesting.
Yeah, imagine somebody who's suddenly confused and trying to piece together what's happening and doesn't quite know, is like maybe still trying to work it out. And then there's the pauses and says, "You're my best friend," but the speaker knows. It doesn't matter what he says. It's almost like his words are irrelevant. Even though he says, "You're my best friend," you know what it was. He's in love. That's the moment that you see it and recognize it, maybe.
Well, and I think that even would go back to, though, the first half of this and for once you let go of your fears and your ghosts, that letting go of whatever the past anxiety was, that in the moment that he says this, you're like, oh, I know what it is. Like, okay, I feel good about it. Like,
okay, devil's advocate to totally ruin the song.
Yes, go ahead.
What if the strange look on his face when he tells you that you're the best friend makes you realize that he's in love with someone else? You've been friends.
Yeah, that's how we get down to you two are dancing and snow goes round and round.
The bridge changes it. But to your point,
I see your point.
Strange look, the word strange is a strange choice. It could have been sure look on his face, calm look on his face.
I'm like, what if this is a sad song actually, and you're realizing that you're in love, but then he's in love, it's just with somebody else.
Because he keeps a picture of you in his office downtown.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that the theory has legs. I'm just trying to play with the options here.
So the song is, again, I think
it's about death. They're dead. You let go of your ghosts, so they're dead.
No. But the song is definitely a you, and you have some ghosts, and the song is about proof. And I think to me, it's not saying that this is nothing will ever go wrong. There's no way you're wrong. But that in this moment, the you is at a point where this moment, that you're my best friend, is enough proof. We no longer throughout the song, I don't think, get any questions about proof. After this, it's all about you're in love. This is all love. We're feeling really good that this is love.
Yeah,
like, this was the moment that you was like, great, we're in this. Let's do
it. I still agree that I agree with that, but I still think that the speaker or the you has figured it out before the he. I think he is still piecing it together. That's why he's got a strange look.
I've also heard stories too of usually women who, when their male partner is getting ready to propose, they think that they're about to get dumped because they start kind of acting a little weird, which usually is like they're trying to keep the proposal a secret. But I think that there's kind of a like also this moment of, if you've been falling in love with someone, the first time you say it or the first time you have that moment, that like it's a strange look because maybe you has never seen this look before, because you haven't had this moment with someone that was this like genuine love. Maybe that's why there's the ghosts. And I would also say that there's I talked about this last week with lover, that the idea of lover, the word having so much more meaning, that yes, to be someone's lover is also in a lot of ways to be their best friend. That the choice of best friend has always struck me as incredibly beautiful, because it's this person that you've been, sharing a bed with. It's the middle of the night. You're waking up with that you've been doing this for a long enough time. But then for them to say, you are also my best friend, is like, oh, now we have the whole picture. This isn't just sex. This isn't just hanging out. This is that beautiful union of all of those things.
Guys, I'm about to blow your mind.
Oh no.
Okay.
For real this time, like a serious. The silence, the way home, and the lights out are all of the different stanzas of this song.
Oh, you're right.
So
They
it starts
are.
with one look, dark room, meant just for you. You can see it with the lights out. Then it's one step. It's like going to his house or something.
Oh,
That's the way
you feel
home.
it on the way home.
You feel it on the way home. It's just one step, but it's enough. And then that last one
Pauses.
is the pauses.
Yeah.
One night he wakes, strange look on his
Well
face,
done.
pauses, then says, "You're my best friend," and you can hear it in the silence.
Well done.
You did blow my mind.
Well done,
Congratulations.
Monsi.
And then we get the bridge, which I think, we get the chorus again, but we just discussed that.
Repeats, great.
And then we get the bridge, which I think is doubling down on like, this is it, where I'm in love. This is what's happening.
And it starts with, and so it goes. And then my head immediately went to the lyrics for So It Goes,
Yes.
which also is in a dark room.
Ooh.
See you in the dark, all eyes on you, my magician.
The So It Goes cinematic universe begins.
There we go. You two are dancing in a snow globe, round and round.
I've always thought that was beautiful, but I've never understood it.
Well, I feel like a snow globe is protected and like you're in your own world, you're in your own bubble, and nobody else can get in.
And the traditional snow globes, you would wind it with a key and it would play. It's kind of like a ballerina box, but you could have like little figurines in a snow globe. You shake it, you play it, plays a little music, and you just imagine two people just dancing.
Yeah, you're in a bubble.
It happens again and again and again. I think one thing there is that it repeats, and it's idyllic because there's snow. It's very romantic. It's a moment in time.
Snow on the beach, weird but fucking beautiful. Now this episode needs to be explicit. You're welcome.
and it's also, a snow globe is also something that you can take as a souvenir from a special moment. Like why would you get a snow globe of you two? So it's also that.
It's also something, now that you're saying all this too, something that is very idyllic and something that is often looked at as like, oh, that's so beautiful. Oh, wouldn't that be so lovely to live in this beautiful house in the snow globe or whatever? And later on in the bridge, we get the why I've spent my whole life trying to put it into words. And so maybe there's even this sense of the I in the song, am outside and I'm looking at you two. And it's like you're in this beautiful snow globe, protected in love. And it's just something I want to admire because it's just so lovely,
perfect. I'm also imagining perfect, like, and the fact that it says "and so it goes" is interesting because it's not saying that this is what it is. And so it goes, always, to me, it feels like lore. It could be like, this is what they say. I think of Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut, where the line "so it goes" yeah, not really a love novel, but the line "so it goes" repeats itself over and over again. It's about a little alien that's unstuck in time, or the main character is unstuck in time, and so it goes. It's one of those things that you say to just keep you're avoiding the fact that this is how it is. You're admitting that that's what they say it should be like. And so when it says "and so it goes," you two are dancing in a snow globe, I almost want to insert the word "seemingly." It's seemingly that you are dancing in a snow globe round and round and everything is perfect. And he keeps a picture of you in his office downtown. You're almost picturing it's a picture perfect caricature of what love is.
I also think that it's sort of, I think the "so it goes" to me comes from this idea of, now you know he's in love, you are in love, true love, and so it goes. So you guys, you did it, you met, you went on your first date, you started having fights and you made it through the fights, you talked through those fights, you have like, you are in love, and so it goes.
Now this is life.
The cycle of the love continues. You're dancing in a snow globe. He has a picture of you in his office downtown. Like, you have settled into this permanent structure.
And I think the next two lines of the bridge tell us why that's impactful, and you understand now why they lost their minds and fought the wars, and why I've spent my whole life trying to put it into words. So this to me says that you haven't felt like this before, and now you know. And so and so it goes is, and now you live in your bubble and you go round and round and you got the pictures of each other in your offices and like now you understand.
And yet it's the nothingness that caused all of this. So you're like, I am kind of in awe of suddenly we have a perfect life. We have this snow globe idyllic moment. We have the picture in the office downtown, the epitome of just family love, commitment. You understand why they lost their minds, something that can cause somebody to absolutely go insane and lose their minds, something that is a catalyst for a war. These are big things. And in the song, though, it was nothing. It's
Right.
not much. It doesn't take much. It was nothing that causes these things.
It's not grand gestures, it's not
No.
lavish gifts, it's not all of these like kissing and fighting and screaming in the rain. It's the moments in the silence, it's the moments on the way home. It's these small looks and feelings that are largely intangible that tell you you're in love.
And I
Yeah.
think you made such a good point, Jody, that we should spend more time on, is that it says you fight and you talk.
Mhm.
Because I think there is some idyllicness of this, but I don't think this song is presenting an unrealistic
Right.
picture. It's just saying when you're in love, you fight, then you talk about it. That's what you do. And it's actually not that revolutionary, but if you've never been in a relationship
wouldn't
or
know
if you
that.
have some ghosts and fears, then perhaps those fights are terrifying to you. Or, you know, if you maybe had parents who didn't have a good relationship, fighting is really hard and really scary to some people. And so a very simple line of you fight and you talk, very simple, completely life-changing.
Very profound.
Yeah, very profound. And I think the So It Goes to me goes back to some of those cyclical moments of you're going to kiss on sidewalks and you're going to fight and you're going to talk and you're going to keep doing these things. And great, it's actually really nice.
Yeah, the only idealism I see is the idea of dancing in a snow globe round and round. That's the only thing that could potentially point to some sort of picturesque, idyllic love. But I think it represents to me less of the idyllic love and more about the idea of feeling like you're in a bubble and that you're in this together.
Yeah, and I think that to me goes to and why I've spent my whole life trying to put it into words. I think that line really, it's like this, there's the eye has really stepped back and is watching the snow globe relationship. And because snow globes are also something that's observed, there's someone externally observing it.
Oh,
And
I
so
love that.
That's great.
that it's metaphorical for people are watching this, me included, and we're watching your relationship go. And that's so great. And I'm going to try to put it into words for
I
you.
actually love that visual because I just got this mind of like, imagine if it were a music video or a movie or something, and you have this higher power, higher figure who is singing this whole song, who's been observing, and they're looking down at a snow globe, something that you can hold in your hand. I think the So It Goes stanza, what it talks about is these love stories, family starting, they're everywhere. They're all around us. It's not a unique thing.
Right.
Everyone in this world, well, not everyone, but like
Many
people every day will meet somebody in the most mundane of moments. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, because of nothing tangible, but something there, they commit their entire lives together and they soon have this kind of love that we can celebrate and look at. And the picture of you in the office downtown is so like everyone has this photo on their desk if you're in a committed relationship, but it's this commitment. To me, it's very domestic and it screams marriage, but it could just be a love story. It doesn't have to be marriage. But I think what I'm getting is something so domestic. And then you're tying that to things that are tale as old as time, the wars, the insanity. And so you now have this narrator who has made an appearance, and the snow globe is almost like I'm imagining that narrator just holding the snow globe in their hand to say like, and this is how it happens. Like 1 second there's something, next second there's nothing. And we call this love and it's all around us.
Yeah, I think even it may be an epilogue in some ways. That the first part of the song is the movie, it's the love story, and So It Goes is the
I love that.
is the 1 year later.
In summation.
Yeah.
Did we just get? I feel like we set a purpose without saying this is our purpose. But should we get to the purpose?
Yeah. I think we did say it. I think I'll just go because I'm talking, I guess.
Please.
I think for me, the purpose is both of those things, that it is so mundane, but for many people, it is a truly once in a lifetime experience. So for humanity, this happens every day. For me, for you, for all of us, this does not happen every day, and it is life changing. And the balance of that is actually kind of insane when you think about it. And I think this song is, it is a love song, but in some ways, it's like a love letter to love, is what I think of. That it's looking at a friend, it's looking at a person, it's looking at us as listeners. Like, maybe she wrote this about someone she knows, but like we said, the you, it could be about us. We can relate to this, which is really cool. And to say love is really cool. It's kind of boring, but it's also life changing, and it can be both of those things. And it's in these quiet moments. It's in the silence. It's in these little mundane daily tasks that you do with each other. And I think even saying that, it does this really cool thing where, like I said, this happens to so many people, but it's so life changing when it happens to you. And with the way she wrote this song, every single one of us can listen to it and think of the life changing moment that it happened for us, if that's something that you've gotten to experience. And so by writing this song, she has done a celebration of the life changing moment for everyone and done it in mass, which is really, really hard to do. And I think that's really a really cool thing about it. But I do think it is a love song about love in a lot of ways.
I agree with that. I think the only thing I would add to that is this is the moment you realize what it actually means to be in love. So maybe you've had these fairy tale visions of what love is, and now you really see what it means to be in love, and that it is so much more in the ordinary and in the everyday and so much more intangible than, you know, Disney and fairy tales have ever led you to believe. So I think that would be like the one added thing I would put on for to what you said, Jen, that like for me the purpose is what you said, and it's that realization of like, oh wait a second, being in love, you feel it in the smallest little details without having to see these grand gestures.
And I think that's where the choice of best friend is
Important.
so moving and important and so intentional. It's not pauses then says, I'm in love with you. Pauses and says, you're my best friend.
And even in the you fight, then you talk. Like that is when you love someone, you can fight with them and then talk about it and then go, like that's intentional. And if you had these grand romantic visions of fairy tales and like never fighting, then that's not what love would look like. And now you have this realization that, oh, when you are in love with someone, you can fight and disagree and then talk through it.
I love that you accidentally almost slipped up and said Love Actually, because actually
Well, because you kind of referenced Love Actually earlier, and I tried to jump in and say that.
I didn't explicitly, but it does kind of feel right. Like you're looking at a lot of different stories. You're looking at this thing that's all around you. There's love everywhere.
Love actually
And
is
yet,
all around.
and it is so simple. It's not always extravagant. This is what it's really like when you remove the pixie dust. And yet it is so magical. I mean, I kind of said my statement earlier, but now with the snow globe especially, I'm like really just seeing this as a visual medium of, here are these little moments and you get the real true understanding of what love is in the gaps, in the places that might not be obvious, and yet it's something that's so powerful and so magical, and it is everywhere, which is really something to say that, yeah, for you it can mean the world and it can be rare and you might only experience it once, you may not experience it, but when you just zoom out and look at the macro, how incredible is it that this incredibly magical thing that leaves no trace, that has no evidence, you don't know how it sneaks up on you, it happens so quick, it can happen in these small moments. How incredible is it that it happens all around us in such simple ways and yet can be so life-changing? And so in a way, this is a poem and a song about contradictions and trying to put some meaning and definition to something that is really beyond being able to capture.
So I waited until the end to mention this because I didn't want it to color our perceptions of the song. But Taylor Swift has mentioned that she wrote this song about observing Jack Antonoff and Lena Dunham's relationship. So we, you know,
We were right.
We
I
were
love
right.
that. Who was somebody on social media was just talking about this the other day.
But again, it does do that as with all of her songs of like, I still relate to it.
Oh,
You know,
absolutely.
like,
and I think
and that's so cool.
that's why like that little tidbit doesn't matter.
Lana Del Rey made like a little speech somewhere or said something in an interview about how she was inspired by Jack Antonoff's relationship.
Current relationship.
To wait before getting married.
Oh, there you go. But I think the snow globe and what you said, Jen, about the snow globe, that they're meant to be observed, really is the thing that I'm like, that I come back to with this tidbit. No, like that's what gave us, or gave me, really solidified that image of observe. I mean, obviously the whole song is second person saying you, but that image really shows that you are observing two people in love, and that's what this whole song is about.
Well, and I mean, I know that there aren't real people in snow globes. At least I hope not. That'd be a horrifying alternate universe. But but the also the other point of that too is the people in snow globes don't care if they're being watched. You know, like it's kind of a one-way thing, but it's not necessarily they're not being watched back. Again, they're inanimate, they're being created. But to use the snow globe as a metaphor, two people dancing in a snow globe aren't like, oh, are people watching? And like, do we look like we're in love? They're just dancing in a snow globe. And it's everyone outside of them that's like kind of observing that, which I think is really cool.
I also love that the line of why I spent my whole life trying to put into words, this idea that your love is a great example of why I spent my whole life trying to put into words. I'm bridging a little bit, but that idea that somebody's relationship makes you think, this is why I do what I do. This is exactly why I have been put on this earth. This is my purpose. It's to see what you have and try to articulate it. That is beautiful.
I love how much we have just all done a decently good job, but very much struggled to talk about how well Taylor talks about love.
Yeah, I mean, on brand. Great. Success.
Well, we won't be talking about love next. Well, we'll probably bring up love next week because it comes up in almost every episode. Because again, universal human experience, even if it's not romantic, everyone loves something. My cat, for example, love him dearly. But join us next week as we talk about love and other topics in Taylor Swift songs in another episode of AP Taylor Swift.
That's all we have for you today on AP Taylor Swift. Be sure to rate and review us on your favorite podcast app. Follow us on your social channel of choice at AP Taylor Swift to stay up to date. And join us next time as we overanalyze and deep dive into the next Taylor Swift song on AP Taylor Swift.